Today, we're going to dive into a really profound and honestly ancient idea about where all of human history is heading. And it's a concept that completely reframes how we think about the future, turning it from some big, distant spectacle into something deeply, deeply personal. I mean, it's a question we've all probably thought about, right? For centuries, people have been fascinated by it. And we usually picture it ending with some kind of big bang, a cosmic event or a dramatic collapse. But what if the real end to our story is something much quieter, something happening inside each of us, right now? The ancient texts we're exploring here, they suggest the end isn't an explosion at all. It's a gathering, a harvest. And that one simple metaphor completely shifts our focus away from all the noise and chaos of the world and right to the quiet soil of the human heart. All throughout these ancient scriptures, you see this imagery of farming used to explain our ultimate destiny. In one really famous parable, Jesus described the end of the age as this great harvest. But get this, he wasn't talking about sorting people into different groups. He was talking about sorting what has grown inside of them. And this right here is the absolute core of the idea. The final harvest isn't some moment of judgment where God decides who's good and who's bad. No, it's a moment of revelation. It doesn't create a difference between people, it just reveals the reality that's been growing in their hearts all along. And this is where this huge cosmic idea comes right down to you and me. I mean, if all of history is a field, then our own heart is the soil. So the real question becomes, what's actually growing in there, whether we're paying attention to it or not? The parable talks about two kinds of growth. On one side, you've got what it calls wheat, which is a life that's intentionally rooted in a deeper source, drawing its strength from something way beyond itself. And then, on the other side, you've got weeds, which can look really vibrant, even successful from the outside. But underneath it all, they're growing from a shallow, disconnected source. Okay, so this brings us to a really crucial point. Before any kind of final harvest, there's a present-day diagnosis. The focus isn't just on some distant future, but on the true condition of the human heart, right here and right now. The prophet Jeremiah just nailed it. Think about this for a second. We are so good at convincing ourselves that we're one way when our real motives are hidden, sometimes even from ourselves. The message here isn't really about being judged, it's about being truly seen and understood, past all the masks we put on. So, what does this deeper look actually show? Well, it reveals these tiny little seeds that grow into that weed-like life. And it's not always some big, dramatic evil. A lot of the time, it's the really subtle stuff, the internal things, pride, selfishness, or maybe just that quiet, comfortable habit of living our lives as if we're the center of the whole universe. But here's the good news. The story doesn't just end with a grim diagnosis. Actually, seeing the problem clearly is the very first step toward the solution. This is where the whole story pivots from diagnosis to transformation, and it offers a path to real, radical change. I know, the word repentance can sound so heavy, so full of condemnation. But in this context, it's reframed as something incredibly hopeful. It's not about shame. It's about a change of direction, a simple turning of the heart toward a brand new source of life. It's an open door, really. And the process laid out here is actually beautifully simple. First, it just starts with an honest look inward. Then, it's a conscious choice to turn toward a new source of life. And in that moment of turning, these ancient texts say something miraculous happens. A new seed, a whole new kind of life is planted in the heart. And this distinction is so important. This isn't about just adding a new set of rules or rituals to your old life. No, this is about an entirely new life starting to grow from the inside out. It's a total game changer. So this whole metaphor, it brings this powerful, incredible sense of meaning to our present moment. It tells us that the future harvest is being determined by what happens in the current growing season. And that growing season, well, it's now. When you look at time this way, you realize we're living in this incredibly significant period, the growing season. This is the time when change is still possible, when the soil of our hearts can still be cultivated and changed. It means that every single moment, it counts. And all of this leads to a pretty stunning conclusion that a lot of people miss. We tend to think of God's kingdom as a purely future event, right? Something that just shows up one day, out of the blue. But the real message is that the future kingdom starts now, quietly, inside the hearts of people who turn to God. The values of that coming kingdom, love, justice, peace, truth, they start to take root in the present. The harvest of the future has its seeds in today. So, this whole idea leaves us with a much better question to ask. Instead of looking up at the sky, speculating about timelines and signs of the end, maybe the real challenge is to look inward, to ask, right now, in the quiet soil of our own hearts, what's taking root, and what is my harvest going to be?